Yo, it's a Drunken Atheist coming through the scene. Christ, how a wiki, living in this dream. Got the studio vibe with a dose of green. Talking on drugs, man, it's quite a routine. Feeling on the mic with a style so raw. Got the late night stream, you knew the deal. Y'all passing out on live like Rakina's Law. Degenerate behavior is the wildest draw. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Chris Halloween is living in a feeling so right. Mixing drugs and booze on the layers of lights. Late night, 5 minutes out of sight. Clear stream, never drink, once a castle of folk. Chris gets fucked up, stories get involved. From the base to last, the content's low. Diving into wildness, never do what you're told. Every broadcast is a ride full of twisted cheer. You're watching Dab stream and Chris has had 1,000 beers. Psilocybin mushrooms make it crystal clear. He ain't never gonna stop, it's the show of the year. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Christ, Halloween is living it, I'm feeling so right. Mixing acid with Molly under laser lights. Late night, 5 minutes out of sight. So raise your glass high to the man of the hour. Christ and crew got that unfiltered power. Fading out on live, but the rave won't sour. Degenerate and wild, they'll never cower. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Christ, Halloween is living it, I'm feeling so right. Mixing drugs and blues under laser lights. Late night, 5 minutes out of sight. It's a drunken atheist coming through the scene. Christ on the wiki, living out his dream. Got the studio vibe with a dose of green. Drunken on drugs, man, it's quite the routine. Chilling on the mic with a style so raw. Got that late night stream, you know the deal. Y'all passing out on live like Rakina's Law. Degenerate behavior is the wildest draw. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Chris Halloween is lifting it up, feeling so right. Mixing drugs and booze under laser lights. Late night vibes, man, it's out of sight. Click a stream, grab a drink, watch shit unfold. Chris gets fucked up, shaking like he cold. From vids to streams, the content's cold. Diving into wildness, never do what you're told. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Christ Halloween is living it up, feeling so right. Mixing drugs and booze under laser lights. Late night 5 minutes out of sight. Click that stream, grab a drink, watch shit unfold. Chris gets fucked up, shaking like he cold. From vids to streams, the content's cold. Diving into wildness, never do what you're told. Every broadcast is a ride full of twisted cheer. You're watching that stream and Chris has drank 100 beers. Psilocybin mushrooms make it crystal clear. He never gonna stop. I'm a one drunk off the motherfucking year. Drunken Atheist Studio, party every night. Chris Halloween is living it up, feeling so right. Mixing acid with Molly under laser lights. Late night 5 minutes out of sight. So raise your glass high to the man of the hour. Christ Halloween, he got the motherfucking sour. Christ Halloween,
The laptop is fucking with me. Nothing is loading on it.
Christ on the wiki, living it up, feeling so right. Eating all the drugs and the laser lights. Night wave vibes, man, it's out of sight. Like and subscribe if you ain't lame. Christ on the wiki, be his name. Go to Drunken Atheist Studio to watch him play games. So fuck it, let's just do a pot of cocaine. Motherfuckers, 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 Drunken atheist coming through the scene. Cross Hollow Wiki living out his dream. Got that studio vibe with a dose of green. Drunken on drugs, man, it's quite the routine. Chilling on the mic with the style so raw. Got that late night stream. You know the deal, y'all. Passing out on live like Rakita's Law. Degenerate behavior.
I just restarted it. Waiting to reboot so I can see the fucking chat.
Every night, Chris Hollowickie's living it up, feeling so right. Mixing drugs and booze under laser lights. Late night vibes, man, it's out of sight. Click that screen, grab a drink, watch shit unfold. Chris gets fucked up, shaking like he cold. From bits to streams, the content's
Where's
gold.
my other
Diving
bait?
into wildness, never do what you're told. Every broadcast is a ride full of twisted cheer. You're watching Dab streaming, Chris has drank 100 beers. Psilocybin mushrooms, make it crystal clear. He never gonna stop, pass number one, drunk of the motherfucking year. Drunken Atheist Studio party every night. Chris Hollowickie's living it up, feeling so right. Mixing acid with Molly under laser lights. Late night vibes, man, it's out of sight. So raise your glass high to the man of the hour. Christ Hollowickie got the motherfucking sour. Christ Hollowickie got the motherfucking power. Christ Hollowickie gonna throw you off a tower. Drunken Atheist Studio party every night. Chris Hollowickie's living it up, feeling so right. Eating all the drugs under laser lights. Nightwave vibes, man, it's out of sight. Like and subscribe if you ain't lame. Christ Hollowickie, be his name. Go to Drunken Atheist Studio to watch him play games. Oh fuck it, let's just do a pile of cocaine.
Okay,
Incredibly aggressive,
let's do
very
this.
toxic. The way you're speaking is like even people propaganda.
Oh, I gotta do all this shit in order, or I'm gonna fuck up everything.
Afford the proper education. You're talking like a South Park character, like fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck. Oh, that was
Martin shares concerns about the direction of the show House the Dragon and the current status of Winds of Winter. So today we will discuss all this and more. Thanks for joining me and the Rise of the Dragon. I just finished reading them both. They're excellent, and they are his official fact checkers. Recently, for those who don't know, George.
I hope they become even more woke.
Recently, for those who don't know,
Put it there with the Amazon Jeff Bezos flag or whatever he uses to do, right? Like make vicious statements and hire more activists, and hopefully once you go bankrupt, because trust us, like the Chads can remain disinterested longer than you.
Oh, fuck.
And unfortunately for you, there are so many Chads at this place that it's impossible to operate the business Chad free. You just do not have the resources. You need to go to the Chad for resources, right? This is what Concord figured it out. This is what Forspoken had to figure it out. And eventually, once you figure it out, it's going to be, yeah, I hate those Chads, but I need their money. I need their cash somehow. And once that finally sets in, once the reality finally sinks in, you're going to realize that, oh shit, I can't get that interested. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.
What's up, Frank Castle? How you doing?
Oh dear,
It really has been a tough few weeks for Disney Star Wars fans.
Am I
hasn't
already
it?
swearing?
Not only did the sudden cancellation of the Acolyte send literally dozens of people into a tiz on social media, don't worry though guys, I'm sure that petition for season 2 will totally make up for the horrendous reviews and cratering viewing figures. But it was also followed by the disastrously bad reception of Star Wars Outlaws, an ambitious open world game where you navigate
not
the violent
exactly.
criminal underworld with this handsome
What the
chap,
fuck?
which sounded great in concept but turned out to be a buggy, boring, poorly written mess that failed to make good on its promise to let you choose your own destiny and basically soft-locked you into being a virtuous, morally upstanding good guy no matter what you said or did. Morale was already low amongst the Disney Star Wars fan base, but at least they still had one shining light on the horizon to guide their way, a beacon of hope in an encroaching sea of darkness and despair. The glorious return of Rey Palpatine.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see the page.
Why? Work for me.
First announced at Star Wars Celebration way back in April of last year, where Daisy Ridley strode out onto the stage to, not exactly thunderous applause. Not only was she
I'm sure there were
returned to the
plenty of
role that both
applause.
launched and killed her acting
All those
career
people who
without
go to
even
the
seeing a
fucking
script,
Disney
but this one didn't
convention.
exist yet.
You don't
The
think
film
that
was
they're
going to be
cheering?
directed
Give me a
by
fucking
Charmaine
break.
Obaid-Chinoy, a
I don't know if you
feminist
could hear my
activist,
television.
documentary filmmaker who for some reason was now
And they
putting
are his
together a
official
$200 million
fact
Star
checkers.
Wars movie.
Recently, for those who don't know, George R.R. Martin shared his concerns about the direction of the show House the
Okay,
the
sure.
Dragon.
Reactions could be best described as mixed for reasons
And the
that I'll
current
get into later in the video. But whether they loved or hated the idea, it was a project. that a lot of
Recently, for
people were
those who
at
don't
least
know, George
curious
R.R.
about.
Martin shared his
After all,
concerns about the
it's been
direction
half
of
a
the show
decade now
House
since
the
last
Dragon.
Star Wars movie came out, and that one wasn't exactly a winner by anyone's standards. How exactly were Lucasfilm going to turn things around? Well, here we are a year and a half later, and we're still no closer to knowing anything about
Thing
this
one,
weird phantom
done.
project. No script has been
Recently, for those who don't know,
finalized,
George
no
R.R.
film
Martin
schedule
shared his
announced,
concerns
or
about the
official
direction of the
actors
show
attached.
House the
There's not
Dragon
even an
and the
official
current.
title
Maybe I
for
should
the
crop
thing
it
yet.
more.
Jesus Christ, George R.R. Martin
I was
was
mute
working
for a
on
minute.
this. Inevitably, the rumors
Like my
began to
mic
swirl
was?
that the project
What
was
the
in
fuck?
trouble, and in recent weeks they seem to be ramping up pretty quickly. Some people have claimed that filming has been pushed back to the end of 2025 or even 2026, and others have suggested that the movie might have been quietly cancelled without an official announcement. But how plausible is this really? I mean, would they actually have the balls to shit-can the return of their biggest, star? Would they ever live down the embarrassment of it? Is it possible that the Rey movie will never see the light of day? Well, going purely by Lucasfilm's past performance, I'd say yes, it's entirely possible. Because let's be honest here, they don't exactly have a great track record.
God damn it.
Finishing projects like this: Rogue Squadron, Rangers of the New Republic, the Boba Fett movie, Benioff and Weiss's trilogy, Rian Johnson's trilogy, Guillermo del Toro's
What the
Jabba the
fuck?
Hutt
What
movie,
just happened?
Damon Lindelof's movie, Kevin Feige's movie. All of them have come and gone over the years. All of them were announced to great fanfare and then quietly shut down when it was obvious they were going nowhere. At this point, I think it would be easier for me to name the Hollywood creatives who haven't been attached to some kind of Star Wars project. Usually because they happen to be flavor of the month, and it was a quick and easy way to get positive headlines for the studio. Case in point, Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie that was announced way back in 2020 when he was arguably at the height of his success. Since then, Waititi's career has bombed harder than the Enola Gay, and the only update we've had on the project is that it's been indefinitely shelved. Or how about Patty Jenkins, fresh off the success of 2017's Wonder Woman, who was promptly hired to direct Rogue Squadron? It really seemed like a match made in heaven until Wonder Woman 1984 came out and basically destroyed her career overnight. The point I'm making here is that when a studio develops a reputation for announcing big ambitious projects with one-hit wonder directors that never actually get made, there's less and less reason to believe anything that they have to say. And the news blackout surrounding the Rey movie only reinforces the suspicion that this project's going absolutely nowhere. By this point, a year and a half down the line, the studio should really be starting to build some kind of hype for this movie, giving out little scraps of information about the production, announcing the names of the big stars that have signed on, and teasing exciting story developments. All stuff that's designed to whet people's appetites, build up their anticipation, and generally keep the project in the public consciousness. So far, we've had absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Not just from the studio themselves, but the industry insiders as well. There's been no
Relax,
script
slow down,
leaks,
save your
no
work.
rumors
Take
of
a short
sets
minute
being
break to
built or
think.
filming
Have a
locations
puff.
being scouted out. Nothing.
I don't have
This
time
kind
for any of
pre-production
that.
work usually starts at least 6 months
Fact
to a year before shooting actually begins.
It was supposed to
And the
be
fact that
checkers.
done days ago.
Recently, for those who don't know, George R.R. Martin shared his concerns about the direction of
and that's the best case scenario.
the show House of the
For all
Dragon
intents and
and the current
purposes, it's currently
status
a
of Winds of
project that doesn't
the Dragon.
even exist and hasn't progressed beyond the ideas stage in almost a year and a half. And let's be real
Recently,
here,
for those who
some
don't know,
high
George R.R.
ideas
Martin
are
shared his
for
concerns
18
about the
months
direction of the
slotted
show
away.
House of the
They're
Dragon
probably
and the
not gonna
current
get
status
any.
of Winds of
Let's
Winter.
just
So
take our
today we
creative
will
hats off
discuss
for a
all
second.
this
Look at
and
this
more.
film business
Thanks for
point of
joining
view.
me,
Any major
Elio,
Star
and
Wars
welcome to the
movie
show.
like this is gonna cost at least
Thank you so much.
$250
Happy to be here.
to make.
There's a level of being a
Rise of Skywalker had a confirmed budget of over
Thank you so much.
$400
Happy to be here.
million, which is fucking absurd to be honest, but it doesn't surprise me one bit with Lucasfilm. That being the case, any movie that they put out is going to have to make back at least $1 billion just to break even, never mind turn a profit. And be honest with yourself for a second, considering how unpopular and divisive Rey was as a character, considering the devastating box office decline of her 3 movies, do you really think another film about this character is going to magically turn it all around? All it's really going to do is waste hundreds of millions of dollars that Lucasfilm can ill afford to lose, that could have been spent on far more worthy projects, and further damage a brand that's practically been mauled to death over the past few years. No matter what perspective I look at this from, whether it's creatively or financially, I just can't think of any good reason to move forward with this movie. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And if I had to take a guess here, I think Disney know this, even if Lucasfilm don't. I think they were pretty shocked by the reaction to The Acolyte, which probably shares a lot of creative and political sensibilities with the Rey movie, considering the choice of director. And I think they've decided to quietly wind down the project before it
Neil,
goes
we
too
asked
much further.
permission, like
Will
we
we get a big dramatic cancellation announcement, or will it just be an aborted project to join the long list of
Neil, we
failed
asked permission,
Star
like we
Wars
explained what we
ideas
wanted to
that
do.
quietly
We had
fade
this.
away
We
into
made our
absurd?
first version of
I
Westeros.org,
don't
which
know,
was
but
the
something
idea
tells
would
me
be
we won't be seeing Rey in a
would be
galaxy far, far away
This
anytime
is
soon.
Elio Garcia, George R.R. Martin's co-author.
we mailed. We asked permission, like we explained what we wanted to do. We had this. We made our first version of Westeros.org, which was the idea would be a site for our players. So we had done some.
Who sided with the board of trustees to say, hey, look, you cannot appoint your puppets anymore.
Wanted to do. We had this. We made our first version of Westeros.org, which was the idea would be a site for our players. So we had done. Like we explained what we wanted to do. We had this. We made our first version of West.
And of course, you need people to run the actual government in the village of Dalton. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel.
Westeros.org, which was the idea would be a
Oh, give me
a
the
site
money.
for our players.
Give me the money, okay?
A dramatic meeting in Dalton laid
Org,
siege
which
to
was
more
the idea would be
controversy, this time over a new
site.
hire.
Not only did Mayor Tiffany Henyard make the hire without consent from the board, we're learning tonight the newest employee has a storied past.
So look, I've covered the Super Mayor for a long time on this channel. I have an entire playlist for you guys if you want to recap in greater detail all of the different various things that I'm going to sum up for you in about 60 seconds. Because if I were to break this down with all the depth that it requires, this video would be 3 hours long. But from the top, here's what you guys need to know about the recent updates. Keith Freeman, who is the Village of Dalton's administrator, Tiffany Henyard's right-hand man, not only in the Village of Dalton, but in the Thornton Township, ended up getting indicted for bankruptcy. It appears, as of right now, that he has flipped on the super mayor. He's turning over where all the bodies are buried. So that position, in her mind, is completely vacant. And this is in addition to the police chief of the Village of Dalton, another puppet of Henyard, who also was indicted.
We had this. We made our first version of Westeros.org, which was the idea would be a site for our players. So we had done some.
Is that he effectively can't be
Westeros.org, which was the idea would be
ruled
a
that he can't carry a gun and basically has to turn in his badge, thus making him unqualified to be the lowest level officer, let alone the police chief. Now, in response
version
to
of
this, the
Westeros.org,
Super
which was
Mayor is
the
trying
idea
to
would
make
be
all these different various
a site for.
appointments in order to replace these figures with more loyal puppets in order to keep her administration going. And Keith Freeman's slot is the first one that we're going to talk
For our
about today,
players.
because
So
you
we
will
had
not
done
believe
some
who she
very
decided to
simple,
replace
rough
him with.
heraldry of the great houses and
Last night,
very simple, rough, hair.
34-year-old Michael A. Smith, who's been active in South suburban politics for years.
The reason for Mike is he has a wealth of great information. He's a young person and ex-politician. He knows the laws like the back of his hand.
So this character, Michael A. Smith, that the super mayor decided to go with in order to replace Freeman, he's a guy with a checkered past, if you could say the least. And it's
Why the
actually
fuck did that
hilarious
happen?
That the super mayor described him as somebody who knows the law like the back of his hand, because unsurprisingly to everybody out there in my audience, but maybe surprisingly to people who think that there has to be some bottom to the depths of corruption and insanity of the super mayor, this guy has a lengthy criminal past. Just like the super mayor who was arrested for breaking into cars, this guy's also got a record, and of course she tried to appoint this guy to be her right-hand man.
Perhaps that's because Smith has been in and out of trouble with the law for years. Public reporting shows Smith has been charged at least 8 times with crimes ranging from domestic battery.
I hate that fucking noise.
In 2012, Smith, then a young trustee in Pittsburgh, resigned after pleading guilty to theft when he allegedly stole gasoline by posing as a police officer.
So just think about the madness of that particular case to which this
Okay.
guy pled guilty to. While he was a member
Heraldry of the great houses,
in
and
another area
I think that
in the state of Illinois, this guy allegedly posed, I don't know why I'm saying allegedly, he technically pled guilty. This guy posed as
heraldry
a
of
police
the great
officer
houses,
and
and
used his
I think
makeup
that
status as a
more than
cop
anything is what
to
caught
steal
the
gasoline from somebody, which honestly sounds like probably
the great
one of the most
houses,
ghetto
and
things I've ever heard of in my entire life. That being said, gas prices may have been way up back then, so he had to do that in order to pay for it. So this guy is just crazy in every
rough
possible way. He has the
heraldry
best
of the great houses, and
but we haven't even gotten into
and
the
I think
juicy
that
stuff, because you guys will remember way back
heraldry
when
of the
on
great
this channel,
houses,
one of the
and
first scandals related to the super mayor was that she
Focus,
hired a
motherfucker.
predator, somebody who
heraldry
participated
of the
in
great
a gang
houses,
rape.
and
No, I'm not kidding about this. To
and
be somebody to inspect inside people's homes,
heraldry of the great houses, and
No, no, no.
heraldry of the great houses, and
found this registered child sex
There.
offender on the public payroll.
A sex offender, you don't give them carte blanche to go into different people's homes.
Now we move to the
26-year-old
bottom.
Bredman is close friends with Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who in September hired Bredman as a code enforcement officer without the village board's approval.
Look at how complicated this Game of Thrones shit is.
For the brutal gang rape and beating of 2 young
Jesus.
teenage girls in the 1990s, and was
Well, guess what? This
Is that the
guy
end?
may be significantly
No, it's not the
worse
end.
than that previous criminal, but are we surprised that the super mayor, that she's a black woman in power,
Because y'all got false narratives out there, and y'all should be ashamed
We all
of
do
y'all
what?
black
Watch Game of
power,
Thrones?
black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman.
I've watched the first episode, but I was very drunk. And I
All the stuff
didn't
that y'all
catch
did
it.
to get people
and I
to
don't
come out
remember
and
anything.
just diss and down our community. Shame on y'all.
associates
I
with
gotta
all
watch
these
Penguin.
different
I don't
various
have time for
criminals
no
that
Game
have
of
on the record
Thrones.
sex
And I not have
crimes,
time to watch
minors,
Penguin
and, of course,
because
violence against women.
I have to
In 2018,
edit like
Smith was working
5
as an
hours a
assistant
night.
dean at Thornton Fractional High
That's
School
how it's
when
been,
he was
but that's what it's
fired
been
for
turning
sexual
into.
harassment of a
The
female
body
student.
double review I did for Once Over with Kaylee premieres tomorrow at 5 on her channel. That's exciting.
According to his termination letter,
we mailed, we asked permission, like we explained what we wanted to do. We made our first version of Westeros.org, which was the idea would be a
Yeah.
site for our players. So we had done some very simple, rough heraldry of the great houses, and I think that more than anything is what caught the
Needs a fade.
Students and actually getting fired for it. This is a damn near impossibility. Do you know how guilty you have to be for the teachers union to not get you a cash settlement when you're accused of a crime in the public school system? Obviously, you
simple,
gotta have
rough
some major big
heraldry
problems.
of the
I
great
know,
houses,
yeah,
and
technically,
I think that more than anything is what caught the
Needs to cut out quicker.
and this is the person
Motherfucker.
that the super mayor has decided to roll with. Somebody who, as a member of the board of trustees, stole gasoline and pled guilty to that while impersonating a police officer with domestic violence charges on his record, and then with inappropriate contacts with female and male students while he was in a position of power in the public school
heraldry of
system.
the great
This
houses,
is the guy
and
that she wants
I
to
think
be
that more
her
than anything is what caught
right-hand
his
man.
interest. He himself was a role playing gamer. His Wild Cards universe came out of a role playing game. And he talked to his lawyers, his publishers, and he came back to us eventually and said, sure. But he really liked the heraldry, and he said,
her hiring people without doing a proper background check and presenting it to the board, and that's our issue. That could pose a great danger to our community.
Well, I do appreciate the Dalton Board of Trustees because where credit is due, they've been on this story since before any YouTubers were covering it, let alone the national media. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think we can lock this down as another mistake by the super mayor when this is a pattern of
9:55 is the next spot.
like that. The fact of the matter is,
1:35. Oh no. Oh no, that's 1 hour and 3. 9:55.
You should not be shocked at this moment in time that this guy with this history was hired because her original first controversial hire had a very similar criminal history.
Liked you, George, and now I like you just this much more.
yeah, I have to be careful here what I say. As I've said,
Oh, I know what I'm gonna put here.
It's very interesting, considering the fact that she didn't have a quorum. So I don't understand how someone could be appointed.
So yeah, in this particular meeting, the super mayor decided
Where's
that
the
she was
damn
not going to
thing?
let the board of trustees postpone it because she says she is the queen, she is the one who rules all of the village of Dalton with an iron fist, and she don't gotta take nothing from no one, especially when people are delivering all these false allegations, as she would say.
False allegation and not
Fire and Blood was trying to do, and I was like, wait a second, like hold on here. And it was I admit I did get a little schadenfreude, and I did feel a little better when George is like, well, actually, I have a problem with this too.
Smith is replacing Hanyard's previous hand-picked village administrator, Keith Freeman, who fell out of favor after he was charged with bankruptcy fraud, is now believed to be cooperating with an FBI investigation into Hanyard. But Freeman is apparently still on the village payroll and filling the job. So can you have a second village administrator?
No. We don't have the finances for that. As you all know, we're definitely in a financial bind, and we cannot afford 2 village administrators.
So yeah, for those of you guys who are confused about this whole situation, in the village of Dalton, you cannot appoint a second village administrator, just like they laid out right there. The position has already been filled. But where the dispute actually comes in is the super mayor, when she found out that Keith Freeman might have turned state's evidence against her, has decided that Keith Freeman is fired, even though the village board has said no, he's not fired. This would be a violation of a whistleblower statute, and they outvoted her in order to keep him in office in that position. But the super mayor doesn't care about rules, she doesn't care about regulations or anything like that. She has decided that she is going to install her puppets, even though Keith Freeman, while currently being under indictment for bankruptcy fraud, is still filling this position. And by the way, the super mayor actually successfully fired him from the Thornton Township position. So if not for the intervention of the Board of Trustees, he would definitely be out of a job as soon as he flipped on her.
Starters, we paid a visit to Village Hall around 3 this afternoon.
Okay.
And I'm told Mayor Tiffany Hanyard was not at work today. As for that court order, this is a major win for those trustees who have been up against Hanyard for some time.
So yeah, now we're in a situation where our judge has sided with the Board of Trustees, saying that the super mayor did not have this authority to appoint these 3 positions. Again, we talked about the criminal replacing the village administrator.
Oh, for the love of fucking God.
What happened with the previous police chief. But in addition to that, she's also trying to...
Fuck! My hands are not steady. I need more booze.
And she doesn't like the fact that
or I could shrink him.
Paying somebody to keep her in check. So
okay,
these appointments were
that
shut
worked.
down. There was a restraining order issued against the super mayor, and she decided to do the honorable thing, which is not show up to work as soon as this ruling came down.
A judge yesterday siding with 4 trustees by ruling that Hanyard did not have the legal authority to make 3 recent appointments.
Perfect.
Police chief, village attorney, and village
And
administrator.
it was I admit I did get a little schadenfreude, and I did feel a little better when George is like, well, actually, I have a problem with this too. So I was like, okay, I already liked you, George. So I was like, okay.
The board drops all these different complaints related to how this meeting was set up, related to the fact that the super mayor did so without the presence of the board, without approval of the board, and this should be surprising to no one, because similar to our federal system, where the executive, which would be the mayor in this instance,
I did get a little shot in Freude, and I did feel a little better when George is like, well, actually, I have a problem with this too. So it's like, okay, I already liked you, George, and now I like you just this much more.
Yeah,
Yesterday, Cook County
I already liked you, George.
The board has been absolutely fantastic in trying to
Okay,
keep the government operating.
I already
But
liked you,
people
George,
suffer,
and now I
the employees
like you just
suffer
this much
while
more.
the reign of terror continues.
I mean, again, these meetings are absolutely chaotic. You can see people about to get into fights in the crowd of these meetings. We've shown different various clips of people freaking out about the super mayor, calling her out, demanding that she resign, demanding that she step down. But the way it's described by this attorney who's working for the village of Dalton couldn't be more clear. Her reign of terror needs to come to an end. She's ruling like a dictator. She fancies herself a queen of the village of Dalton.
I already liked you, George, and now I like you just this much more.
Yeah.
Millions upon millions of dollars of funds that did not need to be depleted in ways that
I already liked you, George, and now I like you just this much more.
there was an investigation
Yeah,
against Eric
I-
Adams, the mayor of New York, my mayor, that resulted in indictment about 10 months after the investigation was launched. But by contrast, the super mayor has been under
You,
all
George,
these different
and now I like you
investigations
just this
for
much
years,
more.
and she's managed
Yeah,
to stay in power
I have to be
on her own,
careful
despite the
here
fact
on what
that
I
all
say.
these
I
different
as I've
various
said, I have said, I had lunch with George at the Worldcon in Glasgow in August, and he told me that he was planning to post about House of the Dragon. And he shared some of the things is what he posted, some of the things he has not said. What I've said it is that was something where, to me, it's an action of George. And this is me speculating because I didn't ask.
Okay. What's next?
Against her depleting the previous surpluses in the village of Dalton, fighting to get a recall election on the ballot, which, by the way, they won the recall election against the super mayor. The voters already voted her out, but a judge, of course, ruled that the recall was
48
unconstitutional
minutes.
and then threw out the vote. And that's the only reason why
48
the super mayor is currently
minutes.
in power at this moment in time. But these people have been fighting the good fight. They have been going up against the super mayor. They have faced unbelievable acts of retaliation, and yet they continue to show up and show out for the residents of the village of Dalton. And in that regard, they deserve a lot of credit. For those of you who were saying, you voted for this, and they voted for this, and all that, yes, well, they did vote for the super mayor, but they didn't know all that much about her, except she was running against
Probably not,
previous
but
corruption.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun to make the theories and so on. I just when as soon as you started to connect and
Oh.
this is gonna happen because also always a fire break.
Thing to think about that in the time, because we've had this hang time between Dance of Dragons and Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
that people have come up with just so much of their own fan theories and content, and it's some of it's really crazy. But it reminds me of I'm Christian. It reminds me of people who are like reading, like trying to grab new meaning from like scripture. Or like Kabbalah. People have said this a lot about Kabbalah, and they're trying to extract like entire things. They just aren't there, but they're kind of like torturing the text to get out of it. That's what it reminds me of. I think it's. I watch some of the lore videos, and I get a chuckle out of them. I think
See,
it's
I don't
fun to like
understand what
imagine,
he's
like,
saying
okay,
right
so
now. I
this
don't know
reference to
anything
love,
about
that
Game of
means that
Thrones.
the deep ones are going to play a big role in Winds of Winter. And like, probably not. But
Yeah, no, I think it's fun to make the theories and so on. I just when as soon as you started to connect and this is gonna happen because also always a fire because of this. That's the part where it's like no this.
do you think Game of Thrones, the TV show, could it have been saved if they had said, okay, so you can't just do this in 2 seasons and be done, David and Weiss, you got to stretch this out 3 seasons, 4 seasons. Do you think it would? You can't just do this in 2 seasons and be done, David and Weiss. You got to stretch this out 3 seasons, 4 seasons. Do you think it would have been better? Or do you think it was going to be still doomed?
I mean, a lot of people liked it as it was. So
So yeah, the cherry on top of everything is that the super mayor might actually be out of a job and homeless by the end of this, and hopefully going to jail. And honestly, that's a deserved outcome based on what she's put the residents of the village of Dalton.
Okay.
Because
you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below.
Well, I don't see where there's a spot to put that in.
My social media support, give you the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor trying to reach for dictator status and
He barely
failing
talks.
until next time.
It's killed Amelia Clark. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't do press conferences, but she will do softball interviews on a basketball podcast.
One of my guilty pleasures, especially when I'm on the road, are my Doritos.
What flavor?
Nacho. Old school, original. Come on.
When she's not talking about pressing issues like Dorito flavors, she's rambling her nonsense. What is your economic plan?
My Doritos? Kamala Harris just said that. It's not as bad as when Hillary Clinton brought hot sauce onto the Breakfast Club. Or whatever she did.
But she almost went back into that middle-class family line while wearing her middle-class $60,000 Tiffany necklace.
Look, I grew up, so my sister and I were raised by our mother. We lived for a long time in an apartment on top of a childcare center. That childcare center was actually owned by a woman who lived 2 doors down from us, Mrs. Shelton, who's small business owner. Small business and small business owners. I love our small businesses and focused on small businesses. And my vision overall is we need to build an opportunity economy in which we increase opportunity for all, including small business owners. So small businesses, community banks, community immunity, and community what the community wants.
But it still didn't give her answer any more substance, which an economy based on opportunity sounds great until you realize her economic plans include price controls, federalized healthcare, and race-based government handouts. And who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe Steve
right.
Jackson and Matt Bowens from the Oldest Folk podcast
Story.
those socialist
We know
policies.
that before we get to that second story, we spend some time in Dorne, and like George might allow them to kind of write out that story or do that story.
It's like politicians think regular people are fucking retarded.
Wasn't buying all of Carambola's answers.
My best friend from kindergarten is still one of my best friends.
Maybe they're right.
Stacey Johnson.
Okay, so that might be a fun possibility.
Cuts to him smiling and nodding, which means they went back
Yeah.
for over 45 minutes of
I mean, I've known people, I've seen people, like I've worked at a Denny's who like carry Tabasco with them and stuff. They'll have mini Tabascos. I've seen people do that. I don't think Hillary Clinton's doing that. I just think she was on the Black Show and she wanted to say something to impress them.
Yeah.
To make them think that they're just like her when nobody's like her. She's a lizard person.
Okay. We've gone through most of the stuff I thought I would ask, which is really cool, by the way. Thank you for doing this, Elliot.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I kind of want to talk about, how do I put this? You and your wife, and the media, not a big fan of yours. And I was researching this a lot when I was getting ready for the interview because everyone's like, oh, you know, because half the people are like, they're these terrible monsters. They're
Yeah.
the dark puppet masters. They're preventing George from finishing his books or whatever crazy thing. And then I look into it, you guys you're very reasonable. You come off as any typical. How do I put this? You and your wife.
So while the roads are destroyed in North Carolina, the streets are flooded with sand.
I hate that fucking noise right in my ear. And it's at 100% volume too.
Just like in Lahaina last year, where the locals had to jet ski in their own supplies. And the more you look into what's happening after Hurricane Helene, the more outrage you'll get at this administration. But I think their
And
biggest sin
the
is
media,
that they think you're too
not a
stupid
big.
to notice that they're faking everything. Just look at her VP pick Tim's Twitter post about going
How
to
do
a
I put
football
this?
game. He's up
You
there
and your
cheering from
wife.
his suite while nothing is actually happening on the field. Out there pointing to the
And
fans that could
the
literally
media,
care less about him
not a big
and
fan of
whatever
yours.
this is. And obviously lying about a football game isn't the biggest deal, but it does
How do I
make you
put
wonder
this?
if they have
You
to
and your
fix
wife.
everything about being a
And
football fan,
the
what
media,
won't they lie about?
not a big.
So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's
And
reality,
the
hopefully
media,
I've earned your subscription,
not a big
and
fan
go
of
check out the
yours.
video on how Americans getting hit with a hurricane resulted in another country getting billions of our dollars.
You need to stop watching these Alex Jones funny videos. Like what?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Blown away by the community's response to the
That's the only Alex Jones drop I have.
You and your wife, and the media, not a big fan of yours. And I was researching this a lot when I was getting ready for the interview because everyone's like, oh, you know, because half the people are like, they're these terrible monsters. They're the dark puppet masters. They're preventing George from finishing his books or whatever crazy thing. And then I look into it. You guys you're very reasonable. You come off as any typical nerd that I've ever known that just likes their fantasy books too much. You're like, well, I just want to be like the book. Be like the book, please. And I'm like, yeah. Can't do that. That's terrible.
I think social media has made things a lot.
All right, now
This absolutely blew my mind.
106.48 to 108.12.
As a lawyer in this situation and fight back against people like Alyssa Mercante and her ridiculous lawyer that she has representing her. Nothing about the money even entered my mind. It genuinely did. From as far as me paying for it to potentially using a GoFundMe to assist me paying for it later. I didn't think about that. I was so stressed about my own world, my life, my family, my kids, my mortgage, everything that I do in my life, that this kind of impacted me in a different way.
106.48 to 108.12.
That is, get the best possible lawyer that I know of to help represent and defend me against a waste of time, stupid lawsuit that I really don't need in my life. But after I made the video talking about how I got Ron Coleman to represent me and I was thanking you guys
In the show, without affecting this idea that, well, this particular group is just, right? Because in particular with the Hightowers, well, if you read Fire and Blood, you know where most of them end up. It won't really have an impact. It won't. No one will have to explain why, by the time of Game of Thrones, there are no black people.
Well, I just paid $2,500 to Ron. That was like part of our savings that we have, you know, our emergency funding that we have to pay bills in case everything comes crashing
Right?
down.
So they, you know, I understand it, and I understand.
Funds away from me because
What's
she wants to push her
right?
agenda and silence me. Like, first off, think about that for a second. She didn't care about the impact that she's making in my world. She doesn't care if my world comes crashing down. As long as I get silenced, she's happy. Because here's the thing that I realized after talking to multiple sources regarding this ridiculous 5-page letter that she sent me. She didn't really care about the fallout from doing this. She didn't think I'd get a lawyer, obviously. She thought, hey, we'll throw the cease and desist at him, maybe scare him into the point of actually listening to what we're telling him to do here, make the apology, write it exactly how we tell him to do it, promise him that if he does that, we won't pursue legal action, and then use that apology to get my channel taken down, because if I admit to what she's telling me that I did to her, it's against YouTube's terms of service, and she could bring that to YouTube and say, hey, take his channel down. He admitted to breaking
Black
the
Panther.
terms of service. And when I first heard people
The
talking about
proud
that, saying that,
black
I couldn't even wrap my
African
head around it, because that is
first
like a new level of
Afro-futuristic
evil
place with heroes and values and so. So they, you know, I understand it, and I understand why people.
That was a terrible. No. It's totally not where a cut can be made.
Prosperous Afro-futuristic place with heroes and values and so.
Deciding, okay, this is coming out of our emergency funding sources. We should probably try to get our money together and get things right.
And values and so on. I think that's important.
Battle, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, and it gets very expensive from here on out. When you're dealing with a very top-notch lawyer, and basically any lawyer in the legal system, it gets very expensive very quickly. And the last thing I want to do is waste my time on something as stupid as this. And more importantly, waste my money on something as stupid as this. Or even, in this case, using a GoFundMe and asking for the community's support, because so many people have been asking
Prosperous Afro-futuristic place with heroes and values and so on. I think that's important. So they, you know, I understand it, and I
I'm gonna make this money and use this just for my own personal needs.
So they, you know, I
on this channel. Everything I do is
There we
for
go.
you guys.
Now
I
it's
built
clean.
This YouTube studio for you guys. I focus on the games, the stories of the game industry, to push the game industry further.
Black
For you guys.
African nation
Obviously, there's a little
in
bit
the
of
heart of
bias for
Africa
myself 'cause I
that
love games and I
represents
do it for myself too. Because I
this
don't
vision
want to see the
of
game
a
industry continue to suffer
prosperous
and spiral going down the
Afro-futuristic
drain like it seems to be
place
doing
with
every
heroes
single day.
and values and so on. I think that's important. So they, you know, I understand it, and I understand why people look at it like weirdly and say, oh, why are you pointing it out? You don't, if it's just. But when we point out all sorts of things about world building, if anyone's watched our reviews, you know, we used to write.
I think that's all the stuff I need to do.
Also very expensive. $2,500 for a letter ain't cheap. But he's also representing me, and that's where the money comes in. So I launched the GoFundMe, hoping that maybe I can come close to it, or at least get something.
457.
And in like 4 hours, it was completely covered and paid for. 4 hours. I was like, what? That was insane. That was absolutely insane. There was such a response from the community in a positive light, and I think I focused so much.
All right.
On the negative things
Let's
of
take
the
a look at
game
the
industry that I
intro
wanna take
again.
a second here
It's
and
a
say,
new type of
this
intro.
is a positive thing from the gaming community, showing that the gamers out there are awesome, are a
In this interview, we talk all about Game of Thrones with George R. R. Martin's co-author, Elio Garcia. We'll uncover the secrets behind the drama surrounding the House of the Dragon.
He feels that it's on the wrong path. He has tried behind the scenes to go through the typical chain of talking to the writers, of talking to HBO, of trying to get things on the what he thinks is the right path.
Delve into George's struggle to publish The Winds of Winter.
Still very important to George. He's talked about his legacy, and he knows that this series is magnum opus.
Reveal the hidden truths about the canceled GOT prequel shows.
For every show that's gone to the air, you know, 6 or 7 have died. So,
and break into the lore. Hello and welcome to Culturescape, the show that interviews the geek creators and influencers who...
Okay.
There is such a gigantic community supporting me right now.
I am going to render.
I've seen people write messages.
Actually, I gotta
get
fix
the
something.
GoFundMe taken down, saying they've reported it for illicit means, and that it's a bad thing, or he listed it as an emergency, but it's not an emergency. So under stipulation 1.B.2, we can get this GoFundMe taken down, and this, that, the other thing. They're trying so hard, and they keep losing. Time and time again, they lose. And it's just like they're so filled with anger and frustration and wallowing in their own losses. It's just, how can you lose so many times before you change sides and say, okay, I'll come over to the good side, the light side, and realize that the gamers are actually the good guys in the situation. But, I mean, I guess that's the yin and the yang of life. You're always going to have the one side and other side of a coin. No matter how good somebody is, or no matter how positive a situation
God
is, there's
fucking
always
damn
the
it.
other side to try to balance it off. And I guess in a weird way, it does keep everybody honest, and people are going to do what they're going to do, and they have the freedom to try to tear each other down. It's just, it's sad that there's some people like that, but at the end of the day, we're winning, and we always win. And it's thanks to you guys that I can say that. So I just wanted to make this quick video and say thank you. Blown away by the support. It's absolutely epic. I've had a lot of people asking me, am I going to take her to court, or I should sue her proactively now, and I should ask for more money. That is not my intent. And I guarantee you guys, I will not be moving forward or doing anything if it ends here. If Alyssa continues to progress and proceed and do things against me, that will change, and I will be a lot more proactive against her, especially if she tries to proactively sue me moving forward, because I did not respond to her C&D and apologize the way she wanted to. And if she does do that, Ron and I will definitely be pursuing anti-slap laws to the fullest extent of the law, and making sure that we get exactly what we deserve out of this. Which is, again, why I'm saying it's not a threat, it's just a warning of what you're doing is not a good thing. It's actually why anti-slap laws were created in the first place. So if you were smart, which really having some serious questions about that these days, you would stop in your tracks, take the L, move
say he edited his address out of it? Why would you say he edited it? Like, that's a very misleading statement to your entire audience. You're basically telling them that there's something different in the letter, and you're making them think that I'm doing some sort of evil, nefarious thing with the letter to make it sound different than it was, when in reality, you're being exposed for not telling the full truth, just like you did with Sweet Baby 8, just like you did with Critivo, just like you're doing with me right now. It's one of those things that you always fall back on. You only tell part of the story to try to push your narrative out there.
Surrounding the house of the dragon.
He feels that it's on the wrong path. He has tried behind the scenes to go through the typical chain of talking to the writers, of talking to HBO, of trying to get things on the what he thinks is the right path.
Delve into George's struggle to publish The Winds of Winter.
Still very important to George. He's talked about it, his legacy, and he knows that this series is magnum opus.
Reveal the hidden truths about the canceled GOT prequel shows.
For every show that's gone to the air, 6 or 7 have died, so...
And break into the lore. Hello and welcome to Culturescape.
Okay.
Today I want to identify, target, and destroy.
Alright, I'm gonna end the stream, but I'm gonna try to come back with something else. I think there's some game I want to play. There's all kinds of stuff I haven't been getting to. But I'm gonna render and send this off, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out, Frank Castle. Maybe I'll see you in a little bit. Peace.